Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Join Terry with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio. If you miss a show, you can listen again on Wreaths Across America Radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to see if you are on target. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
Welcome back to the Tracer Rounds podcast. I'm Terry, your host, and we're giving veterans a voice on Military Broadcast Radio, and tonight's voice is Bill Barowsky with Heroes for Horses. Welcome, Bill.
Hello, Horses for Heroes.
Horses for Heroes. I'm so sorry, I got it mixed up.
It's all right.
I apologize.
No, you're perfectly fine.
Well, welcome to the show. So can you tell us a little bit about your military service? Because I know you're a veteran as well as a CEO of a nonprofit. So can you tell us a little bit about your military service, maybe what you did in the Navy, and maybe years of service, some important highlights that you'd like to just give us?
Yeah, so I was active duty in Uncle Sam's Canoe Club from 95 to 99. And then I was in the reserves till 2005.
Oh, okay.
Active duty side, I was a damage controlman, third class petty officer. Did a Western Pacific deployment in 98, also known as a Westpac. Got to see some awesome places. Hong Kong, Singapore. We spent 3 months in the Gulf. At the time that I was in there, we were on Operation Southern Watch. So the aircraft carriers that were in the Gulf were enforcing the southern border of the no-fly zone. After that, we went down to Australia, hit Tasmania, and then rolled through Pearl Harbor before getting back to home port. I'm one of those that others kind of look at and they're like, dude, you're a veteran regardless. It doesn't matter. But I'm also that one that if I'm in line with a combat veteran, I'm going to kind of stand to the side because in all reality, my 4 years of active duty was hanging out on a boat on, kind of a working pleasure cruise. Now in the reserve side, I cross-rated over from damage control to hospital corpsman because I had gotten my EMT, and the detailer that was at the reserve center, he came in and he's like, "Hey, how you doing, Doc?" And I was like, "No, I'm DC, not HM." And he goes, "Well, you're an EMT now." I was like, "Yeah, I get that." And he goes, And there's a $10,000 re-enlistment bonus. I said, call me Doc.
Right.
So yeah. So I was there doing that until 2005. Kind of the biggest thing with that was, 9/11 hit in '01. And I got spun up for potential deployment 3 times, but because of my civilian job at that time of being a firefighter, they were talking about attaching me to some civil affairs battalion with the Army to go over to the sandbox and be a consultant on building firehouses.
Oh, wow.
I never went.
Yeah.
Called up 3 times and stood down 3 times. But I mean, overall, from the beginning of getting to Great Lakes Naval Training Center until that last day that I walked out of the Reserve Center, I had a lot of great times. I've met some of the best people on the face of the earth. There's a couple of us that, I mean, we talk on the phone probably 3-4 times a week. In fact, one buddy of mine, his youngest daughter is my goddaughter. And it just, if I had to go back and do it over again, would I? Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, it was a great experience. That I just, what it was.
What is damage control specialist? What is that job?
In about as layman's terms as possible, it's a shipboard firefighter.
Oh, okay.
During regular maintenance time, though, it's taking care of watertight doors and deck drains and changing out air filters on the ventilation system and all that really super exciting stuff. But
very necessary, though.
Yes, yeah. But I was on what's called the flying squad, and basically it's the underway fire department for a ship. When you're import, you have your import fire party, but from the time that you weigh anchor until you get back into port, the flying squad has the boat. And so, they start ringing the bells and fire, fire, fire. Well, instead of jumping in the big red truck and going, Mach 5 down the road, it's, you're running down the passageways screaming, make a hole. So, people get out of your way and you can go tend to whatever the incident might be that needs mitigating.
So is a fire a real, does it happen often on a ship? I mean, I know you need to be aware and you need to be there in case something does happen, but does it happen fairly regularly, or is that really something that happens very less often than one would think?
It's an extremely infrequent event. But the reason for the intensity level of training is you take a structural firefighter, and if things go bad, they bail out to the front yard, backyard, whatever.
Right.
On a ship, things go bad. Yeah, granted, land is 2.5 miles away at the furthest, but it's straight down and kind of wet.
Right.
Yeah, so you do have to really be on your game with it. And the techniques involved is, water doesn't belong inside of a ship. It belongs on the outside of a ship. So if you do catch a fire, while you're spraying water on the fire, you also have to remove that water from the interior of the ship to the exterior. So it is quite the operation if something like that does happen.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. You really don't want water inside the ship. It's in plenty of water, but you don't want it inside.
Yep.
So which came first, the damage control specialist, or were you and then firefighter, or were you firefighter before you joined the Navy? How did that transition happen?
So I started off my senior year of high school as a fire cadet with the local department. Um, I was actually the very first fire cadet that they ever had,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, it was a really cool experience. In fact, one of the captains that I rode with a lot, the first time that I got to his house, um, he looked at me and he's like, "We really don't know what to do with you, so if you get scared, let us know, and we'll figure something out."
That
So,
sounds like a great plan.
you know what? It turned out to be an absolutely awesome plan. I got to do a lot of stuff that um, those who followed my path as a cadet were not allowed to do
Oh,
because they realized that we probably shouldn't have done that. And, we probably really can't do that with kids.
right.
Um, Graduated from high school, and it was kind of the typical story with a lot of folks that join the military. I didn't really have a direction to go. Um, I had zero intention whatsoever of going to college, and the local fire departments in the area weren't going to be hiring for at least 6 months. So I had to find something to do, and I looked at my mom. I was like, "I'm gonna go join the Marines." She looked at me. She goes, "I will. No, no. You can do the Air Force. You can do the Navy. You are not doing Marines, and you are not doing Army." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Because I want you to be somewhere safe." Like, oh, okay. So went and talked with a Navy recruiter, and a
And
couple
the
months
rest is
later, I was,
history.
yep,
I
yep.
see. So when you got out of the Navy, then what'd you do?
So while I was waiting for hiring processes to start up, I was working a couple little odd jobs here and there. Um, Ended up working wildland fires out in California for a number of years, which in and of itself is just a crazy adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the biggest wildfire that I was on was back in 2003, the Cedar Fire out in San Diego County, 274,000 acres.
Wow.
And we were on a structure protection task force. So what we would do is we would go out and we would do structural triage of what houses were defendable and what houses were not defendable. And then we stood in between the fire and the house, and we didn't really put the fire out. We just kind of moved it down the road so it could go down to where the lines were cut and all that stuff, and eventually get to the point where it's going to burn itself out. Uh, After that, I ended up moving to Indiana, where I'm at now, and got hired on a department out here, uh, where I worked for 16 years before I was medically pensioned off.
Hmm.
So altogether, 28 years of fire service, including the 4 years of active duty with the military as a damage controlman.
Wow. That's a legacy of service for sure.
Thank you.
It is. So
I'm
it's
sorry?
interesting. It's interesting that you say that they were going to send you with this civil affairs, with Army civil affairs. I was Army civil affairs, so it would have been
Oh,
interesting to have a Navy corpsman or a medic to come along and kind of because with reservists, it's not the same as active duty. If you have a civilian skill set, sometimes they use that instead of your actual MOS that you're trained in, because both skills are valuable and sometimes one overrides the other. So it's the same way with civil affairs. Is a lot of us had civilian skills that were more relevant at the time to whatever mission set we were on. So it's completely understandable that they would do that to you too. It's like, okay, well, that's what you do on the civilian side of the house. That's what we need. So that makes sense to just, use you for that project or that mission set.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking all at the same time. It's like, hey, I'm going to get to go somewhere. And then it was like, it's a war zone. They're shooting at people. And when I was over there, I was on a boat off the shore, and we had aircraft that would fly out and shoot at people if need be.
Right.
I didn't, hard day for me was trying not to get sunburnt while up on the flight deck.
Understood. So how did you transition from the fire service to what you do now?
So, in September of 22, I was here at home and was training one of our horses. We had gotten a Mustang from the Bureau of Land Management, and I was on my 4th ride on him. I screwed up. I got real complacent on him because the first 3 rides, not a single thing happened. He didn't twitch, he didn't buck, he didn't bolt, nothing.
Wow.
Well, got on this 4th ride, and my wife is in the arena with me and, watching and stuff. And instead of sitting him like a not even green broke Mustang, I was sitting him like a 15-year trail horse. Well, somewhere off in the distance, he saw Freddy Krueger murdering the ghost of Christmas Past. He freaked out and took off like a bat out of hell. And I came out of the saddle, ended up breaking my wrist, hitting the ground.
Mm.
I was off work for 18 weeks while that healed, because there's this little bitty bone in your wrist called the scaphoid, and it's got 3 capillaries that go through it. Funny thing about that is in 1998, when I was in Australia, I got thrown off a horse and I broke the scaphoid on this side.
Oh, no.
But being 21 years old at the time, I healed up a whole lot quicker than I did at 44 years old. So I was off long enough that I had to do a return to work physical before I could be cleared to get back. And while I was in the physician's office, he didn't really like my answers to some of his questions. Ended up calling my department and said he wanted to run me through the psych eval again. Mm-hmm. Same psych eval that you take when you're initially given a offer of employment. And got done with that. And a few minutes later, I'm in the psychiatrist's office, and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, so you scored a 53 out of 80 on your PTSD scale." I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." So I missed a few, I mean, to be expected with, 28 years of seeing the stuff that I'd seen.
Right.
And he looks at me and goes, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I was like, "Okay, what are you saying?" He said, "Well, let me ask you this first. Have you ever played golf?" I said, "Well, I mean, yeah, I consider it more drinking beer and chasing a little white ball around a grassy field than actually playing golf." He goes, "Okay, what's the point of golf?" And I said, "Well, I mean, to get the lowest score possible." And he said, "Exactly." I said, "Okay, so yeah, 53 out of 80, I guess that's pretty high." And he said, "When you score above 50, you don't go back to work."
Oh, wow.
Right then, there at that moment, my career ended.
Wow.
So diagnosed with PTSD, also included in that diagnosis was very high on the scale for depression and anxiety as well, which he was saying, the three of them go hand in hand together. Kind of explains leading up to that some of the dark moments that I had traversed, to the point that I almost never met my youngest son.
Oh, wow.
March of 2021, was inside the firehouse about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had a noose tied, and I had a note taped to my chest that said, "You win." Just before I slipped that noose and jumped, the bells went off. So, pulled the note off my chest, ran downstairs, jumped on the truck. We took the run. And on the way back, I had said, I can't do this to my family. I cannot leave them with the unanswerable question.
Yeah.
I had the idea from when I worked out in California. I volunteered at an equestrian therapy for handicap, but it dealt with children diagnosed with MR, autism, Downs, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, just seeing the amazing, unspeakable results of how these kids would act once they got around horses. And I thought, I've heard about this for veterans as well, but I haven't heard about this for first responders. And so I started doing a little digging on it, doing a little research on it. Day before going in on shift, I looked at my wife and I was like, "Hey, this is," and this is before I got pensioned off. I said, "This is something that we need to do. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but let's talk with your parents," because at the time, her parents' house, her childhood home, sat on 7 acres, has a barn, stalls, arena, fenced-in pastures, all this stuff. And I was like, "Do you think they'd let us do that there?" She said, "Well, I don't know. They've invited us to come over for dinner tonight or tomorrow night after you get off shift. So let's bring it up to them then." Getting called over for dinner was nothing out of the ordinary. We probably joined them for dinner, I don't know, once or twice a week.
Yeah.
So we get there and, just chit-chatting, having dinner, good time. And we're all sitting at the table, and her mom looks at us and says, "Well, we're going to sell the place, but before we put it on the market, you guys have first dibs."
Oh, wow. That's God's
And
timing.
very much so. So long and short, hit the bank. Bank's like, "Yep." And so got our old house sold, moved in here to my wife's childhood home where we live at now. And then we started our almost 2-year back and forth with the IRS to get our 501c3. November 14th of 2024, we were granted the 501c3. But even before the 501c3 was in place, I had a model in my head, and we had started practicing it here. What I wasn't aware of, my wife is a veterinary nurse by trade. Right now, she's a stay-at-home mom because we have 3 members of the terrorism network that we created, 13, 9, and 4. And then, we've got a yard full of horses and chickens and goats and a cow that the cow literally sounds like he's screaming "Mom" when he hears her voice.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's great until it's, gone on for half an hour straight, and you're just like, dude, stop, please. So started putting the word out there that, hey, I've seen the results of what this does with kids, that are, handicapped. I've heard of veterans programs that do this, so started kind of digging into it a little bit more and finding that a lot of these programs charge upwards of $400 per session.
Yeah.
If you're in that mindset of, the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup anymore. If you have nothing yourself, you have nothing to give. So it was like, okay, what can we do with these horses to do this? But I don't want to charge people, because if you're in that mindset, what's the last thing you need on your kitchen table? Another bill.
Right.
Plus, the financial aspect of it, on top of just the whole pride, ego, bravado, all that stuff, is the financial side.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Why not eliminate that hurdle? So for any participant that shows up here, it's no charge. And it doesn't matter if they're here for 10 minutes or 10 hours. Because of that, we run 100% off of donation. Currently working to get a website put together, because we do have some stuff that we sell: t-shirts, hats, the tumbler cups, that kind of stuff, to help raise funds for it as well. Kind of on the financial side of it, our goals going forward is to have enough of a bank set up that we can pay for the first 2 to 3 sessions of somebody going to see a therapist. Because that's also another hang up that prevents a lot of people from doing this. There is employee assistant programs out there throughout, departments and veterinary clinics and stuff like that. The problem is, as much as they claim to be confidential, they're really not. And so a lot of it comes down to the trust of, you got a group of firemen sitting around a table that just came back from a horrific run. One of those guys looks up and is like, man, that run really messed me up.
Yeah. It can be tough.
It's not so much that you're going to get the reaction of, oh, dude, okay, let's talk about this. What's going on? Because that's what's going to be portrayed right up front. What unfortunately is still happening is, in the back of the heads of the other crew members, they're now thinking, man, is this guy going to lose his mind if we're crawling down a hallway that's engulfed in flames and bail on us? And so that trust isn't there.
Yeah.
And so, with that being the case, that just adds another log to the fire of why we don't talk, why we don't put it out there, because we are the helper. We're not the ones that seek help. And we don't ever want to be seen as weak.
Right.
Unfortunately, that results in roughly, on the fire side, roughly 110 suicides a year. Law enforcement side, it's roughly 180 suicides a year.
Wow.
On the veteran side, I know there is the 22 a day, which unfortunately is nowhere near accurate, because there's several states out there that don't report the numbers. And then also that 22 a day is it's a very small portion of who actually it is, between active duty, reserve, National Guard, and veteran, that do end up taking their life every day.
Yeah.
Our mission here simply is peer support. We are not therapy. We do use horses in a therapeutic fashion, but part of the process here is getting you to that point where you can get past that, for lack of a better term, stigma of walking into that mental health professional's office. Um, I tell people all the time, you show up here. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the morning. If you are in that mindset where you want to take your own life, I will sit here with you for as long as it takes to get you to see tomorrow's sunrise. I don't care how tired I am at the end of the day. It just, that's part of our whole thing here. Um, Pretty much our standard is, if you want to talk, we'll talk. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. There's nothing here that says you have to come in and just spill it all out. If you want to love on a horse, we've got 5 that are in our program that will bring one of them into the arena, and you can sit there and you can brush on them for as long as you want to. 10 minutes, 3 hours, what have you. All I'm going to do is sit back and just watch. Unfortunately, at this time, because we do not have a certified therapeutic riding instructor and insurance sucks, we do not allow riding. Also, because insurance sucks, we only allow brushing, so you can't pick up their feet, anything like that. We are a very, very strong type A personality ensemble. And sometimes that comes forth in the, you know what, no, I don't want to talk, but I've got to do something with my hands. I've got to do, I don't know what, but I've got to do something. And it's not that we're ever allocating for free labor by any stretch of the imagination, but we are a working facility. We have 17 horses on the property in total because we do horse boarding. We also do riding lessons. And then we also do birthday parties, special events, corporate events, stuff like that. So there's always a fence that needs mended, a stall that needs cleaned, an aisleway that needs raked. The reason that I incorporated that into it is because in our world, we see a stop loss. And what I mean by that is car chases come to an end, bullets stop flying, fires stop burning.
Right.
But when's the last time you saw a fire department show up, put out a fire, go back to their trucks, take their fire gear off, put construction belts on, go out and rebuild the house?
Right. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you don't see that. So you don't get that dopamine effect of seeing progress at your own hands. In helping fix a fence, cleaning out a stall, what have you, you can turn back and look at what you just did and get that minor dopamine effect of, I just made this better.
Right.
I just fixed what was broken. So that's the reason that we do that portion of it.
Well, I feel like you can solve all the world's problems when you clean a stall. Like if you're out there cleaning stalls, like I can solve every problem in the world in those hours that I'm working out there in the barn. And life gets put into perspective, I think, and you have time just to kind of balance yourself again and kind of re-engage with what's important. So I agree with you that keeping your hands busy or doing something physical really does help with, I wouldn't necessarily call it therapy, but you could call it barn therapy because it kind of is. In some fashion, it really does help to kind of reset yourself or reset your brain into thinking in another way and really kind of putting things into perspective. Is it really that bad? Is it really life or death? Is it really as awful as I think it is? And I have this problem, what's the solutions? And while you're working in the barn, you're working with horses, you're doing that type of thing, you can really figure it out. Yeah, that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, most definitely. And so going into that with the horse aspect of it, especially those that want to just love on the horse, there's been countless hours of research as to how this works, and there's zero answers. um, what has been found is, for lack of better terms, the magnetic field of a horse. It is the largest of any creature on the face of the earth. They estimate it to be roughly 6 foot around the horse. When you get within 6 foot of a horse, they can tell what your pulse rate is, they can tell what your respiratory rate is, and they can sense whatever anxiety or anger you may be having.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they will play to that. You know, if they sense that you're very anxious, very nervous, they become calming and nurturing. You know, they put their head up against you, or they kind of step towards you a little bit, giving you the opportunity to reach out and brush on them. And a lot of people are like, well, how do they know that I'm touching them? If you watch horses outside, especially in the Midwest, where there's an epic fly problem in the middle of summer,
Yes.
when a fly lands on a horse's body, their skin twitches right there.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're sensitive enough to feel a fly, imagine what they're feeling when you put your hand on them,
Right.
and then their reaction to that. And I even myself, there's been many of days where I've gone down to the barn and I've grabbed my horse and literally just hug him. And he'll sit there and he'll put his head over my shoulder. And what I'll do is I'll reach up and I'll scratch on his mane.
Mm-hmm.
And he will sit there and relax. And I've got to brace myself because, you're talking an 800, 1,200 pound animal that is
Right.
like, oh, hi. You're going to knock me over, dude.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, they're just, they're magnificent creatures. And so that's why I've gone down the path that I have now of, you know what, this is, I spent 28 years serving country and community.
Right.
It cost me almost everything.
Yeah.
It almost cost my wife everything. So now the focus of my mission is to help those who serve country and community to not end up where I did. I do speaking engagements. The biggest one that I do is the Milwaukee Honor Guard Clinic up in Wisconsin every year.
Oh, wow.
So when I was on the job, I was the Honor Guard commander for my department, and I'd gone up to the clinic a couple times as a student, became good friends with not only all the instructors but also the founder of the clinic. First time I went up there was 2017. Had a great time. Beginning of July of 2018, because I also went in March or April of 18. July of 2018, my middle son was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh my goodness.
His saving grace was that the tumor was encased in a cyst. If it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have him. He's now 9 years old. He is the light of my life and also the bane of my existence at times. But all those guys up at the clinic that our instructors, team members, stuff like that, were constantly reaching out, constantly asking. 2019, after my son was discharged from the hospital, we spent 6 months in the hospital, from July 18th of 2018 until December 23rd of 2018. So we got to go home 2 days before Christmas, which in and of itself was a huge blessing.
Right. That was a great Christmas gift.
Very much so. 2019, get back up to clinic, huge, just welcome, all this stuff. Went back again in 2021. There was no clinic in 2020 because of COVID. And then 2022 was my final clinic before getting pensioned off. The biggest thing that I dealt with was, so at the clinic, they do a peer support presentation.
Mm-hmm.
The tools were given to me. Hey, here's what you need to look for. Here's what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. I was the guy at the firehouse that was always like, hey, man, get it off your chest. Go talk to somebody. I didn't take my own advice. It bit me in the ass and it cost me my career. Back February of this year, when there was the whole thing of, hey, is TikTok going to be here? Is TikTok not going to be here? And so I made a video, hey, is it going to be here? Is it going away? I don't know. But what I do know for sure is Horses for Heroes is here. We're not going away. So Brent Jones, who's the founder and senior instructor of the clinic, he calls me up. He goes, hey, man, what's this Horses for Heroes thing? And so I explained it to him, and he goes, awesome. April 8th, have your ass to clinic because you are presenting.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, oh, well, okay. This became very difficult for me because the amount of respect and love that I have for Brent Jones is just, I can't describe it. And so these little PTSD, depression, anxiety demons are chewing in the back of my head of, you can't do this. You can't go up there. You failed him. He gave you all the tools. He gave you everything. And you didn't take it. You failed him. Well, when Brent tells me I'm doing something, I'm doing something.
Right.
So wife and I hop in the truck. We get about 20 miles away from the hotel. And I mean, my anxiety is through the roof. My chest is tight. I feel like my heart's going to pound out of my chest.
Yeah.
I turned and looked at her. I was like, probably too late to turn back and go home, isn't it? And she said, yeah, keep going. So the original plan was get to the hotel, hang out for a little while. When the guys got back from clinic, go out, grab a bite, have a couple drinks, get ready for tomorrow. I think we were in the hotel room for maybe 30 minutes before my pacing back and forth drove her so nuts that she looked at me and she's like, we need to go down there, don't we? I said, yeah. So we drove down to St. Francis Fire Department, where clinic is held at, and walked inside and started seeing the faces. And it wasn't oh, hey, Bill, good to see you. How you doing? It was like death grip hugs. We have missed you. Where have you been? Why have you not been here? How are you doing? We love you.
That's awesome.
And then Brent came walking in. I pulled him off to the side. It was like, hey, we really need to talk. And he said, okay. So we went off into one of the offices off to the side there. Excuse me. And I looked at him and was like, look, dude, I've got something I've got to say to you. I know what your response is going to be, but I have to get this off of my shoulders. And even though I know what you're going to say, I have to hear it from you. And he said, okay, what's that? And I looked at him and said, you gave me all the tools, and I didn't use them. I failed you. I'm sorry. I love you. Will you forgive me? And he stood up. He gave me one of the biggest hugs that I've ever had. And he stepped back and he goes, you're standing here. You didn't fail.
Exactly.
And so, it's like, I knew you were going to say that, but I had to hear it. And sorry, my eyes are leaking.
It's allergies.
Yeah.
It's the season for allergies.
Yeah. Next day, gave a presentation in front of who used to be my peers. And it was kind of weird going from that side of the table to this side of the table. One of the biggest things that hit me afterwards is one of the instructors there is a 28-year firefighter with Miami-Dade Fire and Rescue.
Mm-hmm.
He is also a 32-year Master Gunnery Sergeant of the United States Marine Corps.
Wow.
Tough dude.
Yeah.
He comes walking up to me afterwards and he looks at me and goes, sir, may I please shake your hand? I was like, you don't have to, dude, you don't have to ask my permission to shake my hand. He looks at me and goes, no, I have to ask you permission. Sir, may I please shake your hand? I said, yeah, Guns, no problems. Shook his hand and he stepped back and he goes, thank you. I said, well, you're welcome. What's up? And he goes, I wanted the honor of shaking the hand of the strongest man I know. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, brother, I was standing back there and bawling my eyes out. I'm like, dude, you were a 32-year Master Gunnery Sergeant of the United States Marine Corps. You're as tough as it comes. And he looks at me and goes, no, I'm not, because I couldn't do what you just did.
Wow.
I could not stand up in front of these guys and be that open and that passionate about this. And I've got some stuff I have to take care of. And thank you for making me realize that. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was huge.
That's awesome. That is huge. That's a huge compliment too, coming from a Master Gunnery Sergeant telling you that, he appreciates what you just did, because that means you're making a difference.
Yep. So since then, we've done a couple small fundraisers. We've had a few people come through the doors. One in particular, and the only reason that I'm sharing anything about her, because we run very, very strict confidentiality here. You come in, you sign a release of liability form, that gets locked away. You get an alphanumeric identifier. Only way your identity is ever getting revealed is if we receive a court subpoena. Outside of that, with the exception of legally reportables, if it's said here, it dies here. Lindsay has given me permission to reveal a portion of her story. She is law enforcement, and the first time she showed up here, she showed up in her car, not in her police car. But when she got out, it was that very rigid, yep, you 100% are a police officer. The very cold handshake, hey, I heard about this. She was here for about 3 hours. And when she left, she was beyond relaxed. And she looked at me, she goes, may I please come back? I said, you're welcome anytime. She has moved forward to receiving professional mental health help. She is striving in her journey and becoming much healthier.
That's great.
Um, that's what we do here. You know,
Well, I love that you open it up to veterinary workers too, because the other thing, the other side of that veterinary service is also animal services for the city,
mhm.
because they see and do a lot of things that are hard to on hear and on see, just like firefighters, police officers, military, they're all dealing with things that most don't have to know about or see because that's not their day to day. So, several jobs that I've had on the civilian side of the house, we've included animal services in that because they stress out a lot too, and they deal with a
Oh, yeah.
lot, just like first responders do. So I'm really glad to hear that you're including those workers too, because they do need an outlet because
Oh, yeah.
they have to deal with a lot. So, and especially those ones that have to put the animals down. That's really hard.
Mhm.
That's really hard work. I don't think I could do it. That's just not something that I feel like I could do. There's other things I could do that other people wouldn't do, but that's
Yeah.
one that I don't feel like I personally could do. And that's a tough way to go.
Yep. Yeah.
So how can people help you? What can they do to support you? Do you have a GoFundMe, or do you have a donation site, or do you have a PayPal, or what kind of
So
support would they offer to you?
so right now we do have a Venmo account. It Horses for Heroes. It is on our TikTok page in our bio. It's also on our Facebook page, Horses for Heroes. Our specific Facebook page, because apparently there's like a bunch of them out there. Ours specifically, the logo or the profile picture on Facebook, it's a horseshoe with H4H in the middle of it. And then our cover photo is the multicolor American flag for dispatch, fire, EMS, military, all that stuff. Like I said, working on getting the website up to where we'll be selling the t-shirts and hats and stuff that we have. My phone number is on there. Our email address is horses, the number 4, heroes 2025 at gmail.com. That comes straight to my phone. So regardless of what I'm doing, where I'm at, if an email pops there, I can get back to it right away. Message me through TikTok. It's the American flag emoji and then Horses for Heroes. It just, that's how we get our stuff out. And through that, if you are a department head and you want me to come out and speak, we can arrange the logistics through email and phone calls and stuff like that. And then, like I said, right now we've got the Venmo that's available, but as the website goes live, there will be a donation link on there too.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to engage with your service, what do they do? Do they call you? Do they come out? What's the process for intake basically?
Just whatever. You can call, you can email to start things off. You can show up. One of our things is not that I encourage drinking and driving by any stretch of the imagination, but if you show up here and you pour yourself out of your vehicle, okay, let's start dealing with this now. First and foremost, you're not going to have another drink while you're here. And while we can't legally, physically stop you from leaving, unfortunately, if you do leave before you are sober, we do have to call law enforcement and turn you in. But we're not going to deny you just because you're potentially under the influence. If you are under and you give me a call and say, hey, man, I really want to come out, but I can't drive right now. Obviously, within reason, mileage-wise, if that's the case, I will come get you. Um, you know, there's just, I try to have as many avenues open as possible to make it as easy as possible for somebody to reach out.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. I love that you are just there to support. It's not, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to whatever. It's just that you're there if they need you to talk with them, or if they just need you to just not say anything, just offer the resources of being able to work their hands and work their minds to maybe resolve some of their own issues. Because sometimes it just takes you stopping and getting out of your own environment to really get you to thinking about how you should be moving in what direction, and maybe some of the things you should be focusing on. So sometimes it just takes a redirection by getting out of your own head and out of your own way and getting into another mindset. So, you're offering that ability to do that. And I think that's great. So you just obviously have a heart for service, because I can hear it and I can see it, that, that's really what's important to you. And just giving back is still so important to you, in not the same capacity that you did before, but in another capacity that's just as important.
Yeah. It's like I tell people, I'm not a therapist. I'm just an idiot with an idea.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up here in just a minute or two. Is there any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to put out to the audience? Just anything we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about now?
At the end of the day, you're not alone. Somebody is willing to listen. I am willing to listen. One thing that I just heard the other day that I think is absolutely beautiful, and I have to give credit to Cache Coffee Company out of Logan, Utah, statement that they made: we're not the sun, we're the moon, because we are that light in the darkness that you can look to.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty epic when I heard her say that.
That is good. I really like that. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more and seeing your website up, and hopefully, people can support your business by going there, and then monetarily, and then just maybe offering speaking engagements to you as well, because I think you have a good story, and I think you have a good message to share, because like you said, first responders and general military too, we're all like, we're fine, and we just push whatever we're dealing with back, and we said, no, we could still operate, we could still do the job, and we never focus on dealing with our own issues, and finally they catch up with you, like you said. And so I love that you are so vulnerable that you could say, I really was dealing with things and I needed to deal with them, and now I am, and now I can, and I'm going to help others do the same.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to be signing off, but it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing more and maybe having you come back on the show.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm honored and humbled at the invitation.
Well, thank you so much. This is Tracer Round signing off.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, We want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.